Some people would see me posing in supercars, might not believe this. I don't have an ego in business.
What are like 3 fundamental truths that you've learned to be real about business?
I would say that the first fundamental truth of business is that in the beginning, there is no such thing as wasted work, because you just have to work to figure out what is worth working on. I think the second fundamental truth is that best businesses to start when you're early stage is one that has a really strong underlying trend that can mask and hide all of your mistakes. And I think the third truth of business is that
and in 10 years' time, he hopes to be a billionaire.
my biggest fear probably 5 years ago was getting in front of a camera and filming something. I've always been, due to social anxiety, the quiet kid in the room. I just don't say anything because I'm too scared of saying the wrong thing. Building a YouTube subscribers to 100,000 is far harder than getting an e-commerce business to $1 million in sales. My worth is around how I show up and treat people rather than my ability to take Udie to $1 billion business.
Can you think about the journey that's been? What are you most proud of? Welcome to Chew the Fat. My name is Frank Reef, and I started this podcast after I sold a business for $180 million with my 2 brothers. It's part of my mission to raise $1 million for Children's Cancer Institute by writing a cookbook called Eat with Purpose. In this series, I'm going to bring different types of founders on for you can share in their journeys and their lessons and insights. I'm also going to bring on guests who are in the middle of scaling their business. I want to make sure the challenges are relative to you and make sure you can take insights that you can use in each and every day in your business. I hope you enjoy. What's the context we need to know about your childhood that made you the person you are today?
I think the main thing is I had a very competitive upbringing, but a positive upbringing with business. So what that looks like is probably, you're playing backyard footy and your dad doesn't let you win, right? Like
Love that.
There's no free prizes. But at the same time, he was incredibly respected in his business, which was a furniture business that unfortunately is no longer around. That industry got very tough. It was small initially, but I would get pushed around in the garage with him and see his employees just in how much they respected him. And that created this desire for positive mimesis around launching a business. So I think those two things together, obviously a lot of people can have very hard upbringings and they want the opposite of that. They want to be something because they were told they were nothing in that regard from their parents. I'm very, very fortunate. When people say, you got so lucky with Udie, it's like, no, I got so lucky with my upbringing. So yeah.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that as well. I share that. Like one of the things I always reflect on for myself is like my dad, one of the biggest things he was like, you can be whatever you want to be in this life. And it didn't matter like what I wanted to do, like whether it be a chef or this, he was like, you're going to be able to crush that thing. Like he used to say to me, like, you can be the president of the United States.
Yeah.
And I'm like, factually, that's incorrect. But having that positive force in your life is such a huge impact.
Yeah, definitely. I also had negative forces, right? So I think that, there's always light and darkness. My teachers told me I was stupid. I could not sit still. And I think they were the chip on my shoulder now, but not my parents, because I think that that's a far more shallow rooted issue when someone that isn't supposed to provide you unconditional love, which again, I consider quite a lucky thing. The fact that my parents, we're a positive relationship, but I still had people that made me want to beat them, right? The teachers made me want to prove them wrong. So I think that's important.
How do you balance that now? And it's something I was going to ask later, but now that you've mentioned it, I'm so deeply intrigued by it. And I'll share something with you. Like, I've through the first stage of our business, I don't think I had too many of these like negative forces in terms of like the doubters and the haters and these kind of things. And I think the reason why is like I was heads down and we we're just doing our thing. We weren't trying to raise capital, etc. This time around, we've gone on the capital raising roadshow. We had all of the big names say no and essentially like doubt us. And now for the first time ever, I'm looked at these things. I haven't shared this on the podcast, but I printed off the rejection letters. I framed them and put them on my desk and my brother's desk. And every morning we get to say hello to the VCs that have rejected us.
Yeah.
How do you balance that now? Is it something you've let go?
I would argue that there's rejection in every single day for us. There's rejection in the ad campaign that we run. There's a rejection in, the relationships or the buy-in that we get from certain people. And the way that we weight that certain rejection is really up to us. And I'm not putting words in your mouth, but maybe, this VC capital raise, that kind of form of rejection is something that you weight very highly and therefore notice more, but it might just be literally the norm. You probably know more than me in those areas. So I think that's the way that I now think about it, is really just reframing what that rejection looks like and putting like, where is my energy? Is that helpful or unhelpful? So caring about maybe what my awesome team that gives me everything every single day, think about me and think about how I'm helping their career, that is worthwhile energy. And if I'm getting rejected in that sense, that's something that I will definitely look at. But if there's a random person commenting saying your hair looks greasy or something like that, I'm probably not going to pay too much attention to that form of rejection.
Fucking hell. Those motherfuckers on social media.
Those motherfuckers on social media, man.
People ask me that question, like, how do you deal with it? I'm like, brother, like, if they're sitting there typing comments, like, there's not much going on for them.
It's funny. I've been thinking about that concept as a whole. I don't think the negative comments on social media are real. I don't think that they actually exist in this world, because they exist in a completely external world that you will never actually be in. For example, if someone comments and says, Davie, you're getting fat, or Davie, you're so pasty and white, and I'm walking and I'm with that person, I'm having dinner with them. It's not even just like walking past them. I don't even think they would think that. They only think it in this digital world, so therefore it's not actually true. So you can completely ignore these people because they don't exist.
Fucking oath, I love that. Yeah. For those that don't know, and what I want to avoid today is like going deep on the Udie journey and all that stuff, because you would have shared that story
Done it so many times.
a million times, and there's nothing worse than being told like, let's go through a 40-minute journey. But just for like a snapshot, like what is Udie and why did you start that business?
So I started Australia's fastest growing e-com site during COVID. I was selling wearable blankets and weighted blankets, two things that help with anxiety and comfort and what you want to use when you're staying at home, when everyone got forced to be in an anxious state staying at home. And I started those probably 2 years before COVID, simply because I had failed so many other businesses, and I was like, I finally have developed these certain skill sets that will actually allow me to market such products. And yeah, I just always had the hunger to start a business like that.
Love that. And one of the things I'm quite obsessed by is this survivorship bias, right? So many times on these kind of mediums and having conversations with people, we look to the ones that are successful, but truthfully, all the learnings come from the ones who are not.
Yeah.
So what did you take from those many failings and bring in that fully changed, like Udie becoming successful?
Every single failure has a select core few lessons within it. So I started a Vietnamese roll shop. I learned how to understand cost of goods. I also hired and fired my first employee. Then I launched seasonings. I put them in these glass bottles. They looked absolutely beautiful. I was like, this has got good margin. They just cracked. And then I learned about product and packaging. And then I finally started doing consulting. I wanted to like launch a massive agency, and I learned videography and Facebook ads. So all of those things where I learned those skills, I didn't learn them. Sure, there's a little bit of hybrid, but it was really just those individual skills that all combined to actually get a successful business. And I think yeah, I think there's, when I had a founder call me the other day and she was like, I'm not cut out for this. I invested, I don't know, $300,000 into their company, absolutely crushing it. Like from me, I'm watching it. I'm like, this is awesome. Great niche, like executing really well, moving really fast. And they called and they're like, I want to quit. I'll give you your money back. I was like, imagine that you're going on a massive hike to like go to this awesome waterfall, like the best waterfall in the world. It's totally worth going there. And before that, you go into this tavern and there's all the people that have walked this waterfall before. And they say, just make sure that you ignore all of the signs that say this is the wrong direction. You're not doing it right. And when you're walking it, sure enough, there's these signs. And the first one you ignore, you remember what the people said, the successful people at the tavern said. Then there's the second one, and you're just like, oh, hang on, maybe I'm wrong here. Then you see the third and the 10th, and then it's just finally kicks in and you go, okay, no, this is the wrong way. Those signs are mistakes because you are just going to constantly see these mistakes, and you're going to listen to this podcast, you're going to listen to me, and you're going to be like, no, Davie said people can make mistakes, people can have failures. But then you'll forget it the next time just a little bit, and it will just keep going like that. And you just need to completely ignore those mistakes, just learn and just get to the waterfall, you know?
One of the things I found really interesting, right? Like, so did a bit of research, and we've been having these conversations, and already today, prior to this sitting down, is you have an ability to communicate in these like analogies and these stories that really gets your point across. Mm-hmm. And I've gone off piste here. I'm just having a chat, but I feel like it's a really powerful thing. Is that something you like learned or picked up or honed over time?
My biggest fear probably 5 years ago was getting in front of camera and filming something and speaking. I've always been, due to social anxiety, the quiet kid in the room that I just don't say anything because I'm too scared of saying the wrong thing. My biggest fear probably 2 years after that was going on a podcast. My biggest fear now is standing in front of a big stage and speaking to people. Yesterday, we just did a meetup in front of 60 kids. It's just about doing reps. And I think that the analogies and the ability to communicate these concepts doesn't come easily for me. That what I just said then was, after that call that I had, I sat down and was like, how can I turn this into an analogy that can actually help people and understand? I posted it on Twitter. I filmed myself doing a reel with it, and I said it probably twice in the mirror, and then it just stuck for me. So I think that it's like, it's and one of the most disheartening things, and the reason why I'm not ashamed to admit that, is because a lot of the people out there that are on social media that you probably think are just the best of the best, and their IQ is just higher than yours, or they have a genetic predisposition or an environmental predisposition to be really good at it. They're not. I know them. I know how much they practice at it.
Public service announcement. Chew the Fat is part of my mission to raise $1 million for Eat With Purpose cookbook. You can buy it at eatwithpurpose.net. Now, the other day I got a comment. The guy was like, too many ads. I just want to hear the podcast. Don't be like that. Come on, man. It's for the kids.
Sure, maybe after 30 years of experience with it, it comes very, very natural to them, but they have done the reps for it, and you just need to do it as well.
Dude, I love it. I love it so much.
But I like the compliment because I've never had someone compliment me on that. I didn't actually think I was good at it. So I appreciate it.
No dramas, man. I'm just here to pump some tires.
Yeah, I love it.
No, I've always thought, and I continually to compound this thought for me, which is if I had to think about only one powerful skill in business, if I had to remove everything else, it'd actually be the art of communication. And I look to, you just mentioned there, like you look at people and they are really, really good. And what you're talking about there, for me, is like, I look at what Hormozy is able to do. Yep. If you've ever heard that podcast, he did the 3-hour podcast with Stephen Bartlett. Yep. And it was like, not a single word is out of place for 3 hours. Yeah. And I think that that art and that ability to be able to communicate is just so powerful, because from every kind of level of business, truthfully, you can solve every problem with the ability to communicate. Yeah. And so I'm always listening and I'm always paying attention.
So Hormozy is an interesting one because, yes, he's been on YouTube. He started on YouTube the same month that I pretty much did.
No way.
We're equal followers. Yeah. And his content, he would just sit in front of it. We were putting in so much effort, we were scripting, and he would annihilate it. And I'm like, oh, I did exactly what I just talked about. I was just like, I'm just not good at this. I'm insecure. But don't forget, skills compound. What was he before he went onto YouTube? He was a salesperson. He was a writer. Those are the two best things for actually communicating. Like combined, you're practically a YouTuber. You know what I mean? So
100%.
I think that we need to look at all of the previous skills to just see how many reps, because he might have been like me when he was a kid. You never know. But he has put in the work, which is what you need to do. Because in 10 years, I can probably communicate like that if I write as much as him, if I sell as much as him, and if I shoot as many YouTube videos.
It's that ability to build, like create the building blocks. What I'd love to think about is you're exposed to not only the businesses in your journey, but now the businesses with the Daily Mentor, with Shark Tank. What are like 3 fundamental truths that you've learned to be real about business?
This is such a hard question for me because I just get it wrong so many times. I would say that the first fundamental truth of business is that in the beginning, there is no such thing as wasted work, because you just have to work to figure out what is worth working on. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like it's just like I used to think, and then the flip side is also true, that when you have a family like your beautiful family here, when you have, millions in the bank, that there is such thing as wasted work. It's called almost a paradox. And there's a certain period where it flips, because the utility of every single second and what that provides fundamentally shifts, right? So I think that's one fundamental truth. I think the second fundamental truth is that the best businesses to start when you're early stage is one that has a really, really strong underlying trend that can mask and hide all of your mistakes. When I first started my e-commerce businesses, I would get on calls with coaches and people that have been in the industry for 5 years, and they're like, your results are insane. What are you doing? This kid's a genius. I had no idea that Facebook structure was terrible. It was an absolute joke. And it was because I picked underlying trends, both through the marketing channel and the product, that absolutely exploded. And I think the third fundamental truth of business is that we as people have a certain amount of pain threshold. And every single thing that happens within business either affects you in a certain way. So let's say you're an early stage entrepreneur and you go and you try to do door-to-door sales and you get rejected. What a good entrepreneur will feel in that moment is a small level of rejection, but they will keep going. Let's say that's minus 10 life points. What a regular person that is about to give up might feel that rejection, and it might be minus 100. But I think there's another flip side of that, which is like your ability to tolerate the amount of pain. So there's there's impact, and then there's volume of life points. And I think that in the early stages, you really want to make sure that you are reframing these things so these small hits just feel like small hits. And then over time, your capacity to get hit will be more, and you just get better and better. And this is why I think that people, the old saying, like, it doesn't get easier, you just get better, I think is really fundamentally true.
Fuck yeah. I love that, man. Oh, you know what I really resonate with as you share that? The first one that came to your mind, this idea of the no wasted time. I think it is so true because, like you're starting out, like everything you kind of, it's just little threads you got to pull and you got to learn, you got to explore. It is so critical to go through that journey, and it's not linear in any way, shape or form. And you've got to bump against things and just kind of figure your way through. And I think this is one of the problems with some of the stats. You hear the stats, like 90% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. And I've always thought the thing that like changes that is like your ability to stay in the game.
Yeah.
I would love to know if they could like fix those stats and see like of those ones, like an ABN closes down, it's more around like that founder and were they able to stay in the game long enough to have something that was successful? Yeah,
definitely. It's 100% true. I think, I agreed.
So what about the Daily Mentor? So with how many founders are in that?
At the moment, I think we've had about almost 1,000
Wow.
Yeah, brands come through at
Incredible.
one point.
And I guess we should say, like, for those that don't know, like, what is the Daily Mentor?
Yeah, Daily Mentor is a coaching program for brands that are established, not
Yep.
for beginners, doing e-commerce sales. And yeah, we come in and we help them across product, marketing, operations, finance, just literally everything. It's basically, I had lawsuits, I had cash flow issues. I almost went bankrupt like 3-4 times.
Fuck.
I had no unbiased mentors or people that were advising me for me. And I was like, I just wish I had this high-end education. So we launched Daily Mentor.
Sick. And what do you find that, like, have you had many of them, because they're established, have you had many of them that don't thrive? And if so, what are kind of the parallels that they share?
Yeah. I think the funny thing is the ones that don't thrive the most, I just have a fundamentally shit business. And I don't say that in a derogatory way. It's not their fault. I have shit businesses in my portfolio as well. But they get married to this concept of what the business was and fail to adapt. So we come into a business and one of the fundamental steps of it is doing a report card where we calculate, the break-even ROAS, what they need to spend, their baseline operating costs, and how much revenue that they need to actually do, which for you and me, like, that's pretty obvious stuff. But like, granted, for the first 3 years of my business, I didn't know any of that. So again, this is why I created it, because I was an idiot for 3 years. So I think we go into that sheet and we show them that to them, and they're like, you need a 10 return on ad spend, and you need to spend 10 times more than you currently do to actually scale this business profitably. And they go, okay, maybe my product isn't right. So then we can teach them how to change product and whatnot, because I think fundamentally, I am a firm believer that I'm not smarter than people. A lot of people say that as like virtue signaling and stuff. Like I genuinely don't. I believe that I worked harder than most people for 4 or 5 years, and I had a better opportunity. So that makes me very passionate about when I like see one of these people that has a fundamentally bad business and are knowing that they can achieve whatever they actually want to achieve. They just need to let go and pivot and change their product or strategy.
Love that. And what about the ones that are successful, the ones that really thrive?
They're just animals. They're just animals. They're just like, they just work so hard. They message me at 2 a.m. their time. They're just constantly asking the right questions. They just they're just not scared of being wrong. The main thing is, I remember messaging someone about their campaign structure and the fact that they needed to completely rebrand their entire website. Within a week, it was all done. And then they just came back and they just sent me a voice note. It's like, what next? I've also, on the flip side, had people ask me things and literally 12 months later, it's still there. So it's a bias to action and just, be an animal.
Fuck. That brought a smile to my face.
Yeah.
The animal and the bias to action. And I think you see this in amazing founders who you give them a piece of information and there is no time between hearing it and the action taken. And when you get to extrapolate that over 2, 3, 5, 10 years, you realize where they can get to because they just continually compound the speed. But the animal piece is interesting. So I was sitting across the table. I don't know if you've ever met a young gal by the name of Kate. She's got a business called Udie Wellness Beverage.
Oh no, I saw your podcast and it was great.
So she was sitting across the table for a week or two ago, and I was looking into her eyes, and I was like, there was something about that, like that animal founder where you can just see it in their eyes. You can see the fire and the passion, and it's so true. It's a perfect description. An animal.
So I used to be like that. I think that, so the best period of my business is when I was like that. I was probably 23 to 27. This is when Udie went to $200 million in like 2-3 years.
It's crazy.
And there was no pause and reflection. And I just went so quickly. Then so many bad things happen, which it has to. Whatever goes up, like there's going to be mistakes. I hired the wrong CFO. I hired a lot of bad issues. And I took that negative stuff, just because that's when I started having a lot of mental health issues, panic attacks, that kind of stuff, as that the previous actions that I had just done, like being an animal, was incorrect. And slowing down my decision making and getting other people's advice and following their advice more than my intuition was key. And I, like everything that we say on these podcasts, there's always some truth in both sides of that. Probably did need to slow down, probably did need to, hire some good people in those roles. But at the same time, after that period, which is probably like 2 years, and we're probably just coming out of it this year, I had so much doubt. I had so much fear of failure that I just stopped being like that. I was too scared to make a mistake. And I think a lot of people, I think it was like Kobe was talking about it with NBA players, that it's so easy to be number one because as soon as they get there, as soon as everyone gets to the NBA, they slow down. And I think that's what can happen for you as well. You're so attached to the success that you get that you're less willing to take risks. And I think that's the beginning of the end of your ability to really, really change the world. So if your goal isn't to change the world, don't worry about still being an animal. Just go sail off into the sunset, go sit on your yacht. But if you do want to be, change the world, you just need to keep that animalistic instinct,
How do you battle against that? I say, how do you battle against that for yourself?
Yeah, I struggle, to be honest. I struggle. I think it's all about chapters. And I think that the chapters of life should be 20 to 30. You should just be an animal and you should work and you should create security for your future partner, your kids, your family that has given everything to you to raise you. Then the next chapter probably, and these can overlap, they don't need to be, at one time. The next chapter should be a spirituality chapter. It's very hard to, in my opinion, to find spirituality when the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is not met and you're worried about eating. It's very, very difficult. It's very, very easy to look at the supercar not giving you happiness and then suddenly questioning, why isn't this giving me happiness? Rather than trying to pitch yourself have a supercar and then be like, no, it's not that cool because it's kind of a little bit cool, right? So, and then you've got the next chapter of family. And I think that is where this whole battle, it comes in for me. Because I think I've got enough money, I can retire, I can be the best, let's say, be an animal in terms of what I provide for my family or how I make them feel or how I set them up for success. So I think it's these definitions of like what intense work, focus, and care do you actually want to put into in terms of those chapters?
Which chapter you're in?
I'm going into the family chapter soon. Yeah.
Does that excite you?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does. It's so nervous though, right? Because it makes me so nervous simply because your identity is this hardworking, and I'm not going to stop working. I love work. It brings me so much joy. Like, so just want to put it context. I'm not going to stop doing big days and big weeks and working on big projects. But the intensity level can just be so different. You've got Elon Musk versus, maybe even Mark Zuckerberg. He's got a family versus someone that's just completely retired. They're so different. So it does excite me. It scares me to let go of a part that is so much of me. But every time that I've let go of something that deep down I know isn't fundamentally important and that I won't care about letting go when I pass on, it's always been a good thing.
It's really interesting. I'm enjoying this conversation, Davie.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
I'm enjoying
great
it.
questions. They're good new questions.
Because I reflect on that, and I think I've always thought in things of seasons, so very similar to what you're saying to chapters, right? And I am very much in my family era.
Your family's beautiful.
Thank you,
Your
man.
kid wasn't wearing pants when he walked in, but that's okay.
Thank you for letting everybody know. No jokes. My son's 3 years old. We're less than 2 weeks away from my new little daughter. But I think one of the most interesting things I've got to experience over the last 3 years is I definitely had that sense, which was the moment this starts, then something there must be a cost on the other end, which is true. But for me, and it's just like a reflection to share with you, for me, the cost has come in different ways. And so I'll share with you, I'm a very social creature. I must, like on a weekly basis, I must spend time with my friends. Now on the weekend, I don't spend enough time with my friends.
Yeah.
But what I do instead is I have 2 gym partners, which are like my best friends. They come to my house. We train 5 days a week. So by the time I get to the weekend, I can just fully focus on my family because I've already had, 10 friendship hours during the week. And so I think the biggest reflection for me was you just become incredibly good at pushing out shit that doesn't matter. I'm not saying friends don't matter, but the stuff that's kind of like noise. And so like I've designed my life in this next business where, me and my brother are both family men. We start at 7:30, we finish at 3:30 so I can pick up my son from daycare. And so you are like, technically you're like, oh, it's not many hours you work, but because you become like so focused in those hours, you kind of end up going like, oh, I think I was, I'm doing the same as what I was. Like I look at now, like with this business, I'm going, I am working harder and more passionate than I think I ever was, but I'm able to juggle all these things. And one of the big realizations for me from the family man perspective is I had this moment, which is post-exit, which is like, you could do the retiring thing now as an example. And for me, I was like, I just thought about my son growing up, and I thought about him. At 1 year old, his dad's retired, and then he's 10, he's 15, he's 18, and all he'll ever know is dad was on a couch. Because he, it doesn't matter how many times I tell him, like, oh son, I used to work really hard. He's like, shut up, dad.
Yeah,
shut up. I've
it's
seen
what
you
you
on the couch.
do, not what you say.
Exactly. So like my son comes to the gym every morning. So he's there at 5 a.m. I've got many clips of him sitting on me while I'm bench pressing.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting. I think you can have these things in harmony. So I just want to share that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really valuable. I think defining the word matters is really important because I think it's different in like each situation. So like, yeah, that's the thing that always I struggle with, right? Defining what that matters even means. Is it your happiness? Is it giving in servitude for long term? Is it finding peace? I don't. That's where I always struggle with them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I think you just deep down know, and you get better at that with age, because the more times that you achieve something that you thought that matters to you and it doesn't, it has this taste, it has this feeling that that it's not going to matter during the process, and you can start to fine tune that before you even chase it. Yeah,
100%. Yeah. One of the things I'm really interested by in your story, oh damn it, I've forgotten his name. The founder of Gymshark, Ben Francis.
Yeah.
So I remember hearing, you may have heard this, like when he was talking about this on the Diary of the CEO, is his journey of like starting Gymshark. Essentially, it's scaling so big. He then stepped from the CEO role into chief marketing, chief product, and he went through this transitional phase. And the moment I heard that, I just had so much respect for him, because I was like, as a founder, like you do tie so much of your identity into your business, and you want to be at the helm. Like I know that so intimately, but the ability to realize like this is the right thing for my business at this particular point in time is so incredible and powerful. Yeah. And so you've obviously had that transition a couple of years ago with Udie. How did you find that process?
That came at a period where I had 11 businesses and I was spending maybe an hour a week on Udie, which was a $200 million a year business.
Wow.
So the problem was very obvious that there was a problem. And I think that became because founders typically burn out at 4 to 5 years. Like that's just literally when they get tired. Obviously, it can vary a little bit, and that was at the 4 to 5 years mark. So I wasn't not working on Udie from a lack of like confidence in ability, I guess, but more so just boredom. I'm a stern believer that if I continued doing that for maybe 1 or 2 years, the business would have gone bankrupt if I just kept brushing it under the pillow and just ignoring it. So it was very obvious for me. And I don't really you know, some people would see me posing supercars, might not believe this, but like I don't have an ego in business. I really don't. I don't think I'm better than people. I think I work hard. I think that I have strengths that other people don't have, and they have strengths that I don't have. Like that's just is what it is. And I think that my worth is more so around how I show up and treat people and give back rather than my ability to take Udie to $1 billion business. So it was a very, very easy thing for me. I should have done it 2 years earlier, and maybe Udie would be where Gymshark is. And that's why I have tremendous respect for Ben Francis and how he's executed on that.
What did you learn through the process?
I've hired multiple CEOs now, I think 4 or 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for my businesses. I don't...
Oh, for the different businesses.
For my different businesses.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, that would be a red flag for Udie. 4 or 5 over... Yeah, no. It's still the same CEO in Udie. So she's done an incredible job. I think that there's... When you're hiring a CEO for your existing business, obviously hiring internal is less risk because you know what you're trying to get. So you need to identify the risk and reward matrix that is required for your goals for that business. So if your business is just absolutely dropping, you couldn't resurrect it, you are set with your portfolio elsewhere, you're like, this just needs to be a banger. I'm going to hire an external CEO that maybe is a little bit more volatile, maybe a little bit more growth orientated, and you hire them that way. If on the flip side, you're like, I need this to level out, and I have kind of nothing else, then you definitely want to hire maybe, someone internal, and then someone that is in the existing realm of your skill sets, because then the business will stay in a similar way.
And what did you do? Was it internal or external?
Internal was I hired internal for that. Her skill sets, ironically, just going against what I just said, but like were the opposite to mine, but they were the flaws within the business. Because typically I'm a marketer. Udie was so strong in marketing, but we were constantly selling out. We had no cash flow management. We had no like good team management or leadership, because all I wanted to do was run ads every single day, which was so stupid. And that was her strengths. Plus, she had already been in the company, so there was an element of stability there. And granted, she inherited a very, very tough job. Like we peaked. The peak wasn't my ability. Like it on paper, it looks like it collapsed after I went in there, which is just not true. It was like post COVID, she just had to deal with a ton of stuff. But to her credit, she handled that very well. Now, when I think about the flip sides of maybe the negative experiences that I've had with CEOs, I have probably hired people with the too little experience and too little agency to actually solve the problems themselves. And what that looks like is maybe we need to completely revamp the acquisition strategy, or we need to launch completely new products. Can they recognize that signal? Can they drive that product to completion? Can they set objectives and key results that actually match those results?
Fuck yeah. So good learnings.
Yeah, good learnings, plenty. You know, and as you know, hiring, you just keep making mistakes. You know, even the best entrepreneurs in the world, Elon's making hiring mistakes. It's just trial and error.
I find hiring such a funny thing, especially now that I'm doing content. There are like a couple of building blocks that you need to get really, really good at in business. Hiring to me is one of the top, if not the top. Every problem is solved with the right person in the right seat that's like has the ability to unlock.
That's all it is eventually.
And it's so funny because anytime I talk about hiring in any of my content, it's like boring because I think it's not sexy. It's not exciting. It takes time. It takes effort to nurture people and grow people, and people want to have something that's quick and easy and fast. Like, you know, I did a YouTube one that like performed 10 times worse than anything else. It was just like banging like information on hiring. I think people was like, oh yeah, tell me how to use like a cool AI prompt of how to get really, really rich. I don't want to know about like, you know, like the people stuff.
Yeah. So we're about to, I think it's because the lesson that hiring is literally everything only comes to a certain demographic that have gotten to a point where they're, you know, making $10, $20, $30 million and they're starting to build a portfolio. You know, it really does, because before you can brute force stuff, you can just manage people closely. So if we think about that as a subsection of audience, it's so small. But we're about to release a hiring video on my new channel, which is Davie Fogarty Mentors, on YouTube. And that is probably going to get 10,000 views, but it is advanced e-com hiring. The value that those 10,000 people are going to get from that video is going to be much better than how to be a top 1% man on my other YouTube. I don't think I'm a top 1% man, to be honest. So I think that relevance of information and reassigning that what success actually looks like for those views is key.
Love that. And a good shift, because I want to shift for a moment into content.
Yeah.
Now, this might be purely for selfish reasons, but fuck it.
Yeah. I love your content, man. You're doing an incredible job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Job.
So I'd love to unpack, there is no denying you would have one of, if not the strongest personal brands in business in Australia. I don't say that to pump your tires, but it's just the actual fact. And so I'd love to kind of shift and go, what is your learnings of the last few years of being around in the personal brand space that you think is something that people wouldn't realize?
The key is having a story. Every single really, really good video that we've done that isn't tutorial based, there's been a really clear story with a beginning, middle, and end. And this is the easy thing. This is why anyone can get 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, is because you all have a story. You just need to learn to tell it better. So developing those storytelling frameworks, such as how to use open loops, which is a sentence that's doesn't get closed or confirmed until later into the video. Then there's also about use of certain words. So one of the most viral business pages previously was this is Frank's business, let's steal his strategy. Now, let me rephrase that. This is Frank's business. This is how it works. Steal versus this is how it works, really emphasizing the language and the deliverability of that is super key. So yeah, go and just write down all of the stories that have happened, put all of the years and then what you did in that year, and then just small stories. Now, these don't have to be big, I was rescued at Bondi Rescue, or RBT, I got pulled over. It's they don't need to be full-on stories like that. They can be really small things, like an act of kindness from your partner. You were crying in the shower and they came in and they helped you, or something like that. That story there, told really well, will relate to people more than those big stories, and constructed together in the right narrative with the right reward is key.
Love that. Yeah. Fuck yeah. I was thinking this, that's so rogue. What am I talking about? Never mind. I was just thinking about the story about you saying having a panic attack in the shower, and I was yeah, Kai's done that, but I was I was this is just going to get weird.
Haven't we all done it?
And what do you think what don't people realize about building a personal brand? What's the hidden unlock?
That it's the main thing that people get wrong with building a personal brand is that it's often a waste of time for people that are running a business. There are far better and cheaper and easier channels to grow and spend money on and perfect that are designed advertising ecosystems like Facebook ads that will grow your sales much, much quicker. But that being said, it is a passion project. It is something that you can build over 3-4 years. You just need to develop the skill sets like anything. You need to understand, let's take YouTube, for example, exactly how to find outlier videos on other niches. So take a cooking challenge, for example, apply that to business. Then you need to understand, obviously, production. You need to get your camera, get very, very basic settings. Don't go buy tons of gear and just film them. Then you need to understand how to optimize that in terms of continually rehashing it, new thumbnails, new positioning, new stories. So yeah, it's just about developing those skill sets.
It's really interesting. I think from outsiders' perspectives, and I've got to experience this, you don't realize how much effort goes into some of these things. Like I think, we've been kind of, I'd say reasonably intentional over the last few years to go, okay, like, one channel at a time. We'll try and get to a place where I'm not going to use the word master, but you feel like I know what I'm doing here. It's time to like go to the next horizon. And I look at something like our recent discovery with like YouTube and I'm like, my God, you know, like the amount of detail that people wouldn't realize you have to go like and be like, if you want to do it well, it's like, you got to be meticulous. Like I remember the first one we did, I then spent a few hours doing like a post-mortem. We got in the room with me, Jacques and Kai, and we're going like down to all the granular level of detail, like every single time, whether it be a thumbnail or a title or this and that. It's like there's so much art and science to it that I think so many people would just be like, holy shit, like why do you bother?
Building a YouTube subscribers to 100,000 is far harder than getting an e-commerce business to $1 million in sales. I posted that on Twitter the other day. All of these YouTubers just completely agreed with me. And it comes fundamentally down because what would you rather be? Would you rather be a YouTuber or an e-commerce person? I think YouTuber was the number one job that kids wanted to be when they grew up. So therefore, supply, demand is far more competitive. Everyone wants to be famous on YouTube. So that's what causes that ton of competition. So of course it's going to be difficult. And it's difficult for people that really struggle to tell stories as well.
When you think about the brand stuff, do you have like the want and desire to be famous, or what's your kind of main intention behind it?
I'm indifferent about it. It's nice when someone comes up and gives me a compliment. It's really, really nice when, we probably had 10 people yesterday that are like, yeah, we're doing $10,000 in sales after we watched like millionaires.com, which is our free course. Like that literally, especially when I'm with like my girlfriend or my parents and they see that, and then I make them very proud as well, because that's what I set out to do when I finished school, is to inspire people. That stuff really matters to me. Getting a better table at a restaurant, going to a fancy party, like that stuff I am 100% indifferent about. It pumps up your tires, but again, what we talked about before, it's, that's not something that matters. Yeah.
What's Shark Tank? What has Shark Tank done for your brand?
I think it added authenticity to it. I was the youngest ever shark on Shark Tank.
How old are you?
I was 29 when I went on it.
Fuck yeah.
I was 28 when I first went on it. And there was a lot of bad actors in the e-com space that was sharing Shopify screenshots that were doing $1 million in sales. They just changed the Shopify dashboard, pretty simple to do. And then by having me on TV in such a credible position, it really did help people realize that I am a step above in my entrepreneurial journey in e-commerce, which helped me help more people. That being said, I hope one day a lot of those people will hit a winner like I did and be on Shark Tank.
Love that. So kind of coming to, to the closing. And so I wanted to ask, one of the things I really admire in your story, correct me if I'm wrong, you've been with the same girlfriend since high school?
Yeah, 14 years.
So cool. So I'm exactly the same. So my wife you met today, awesome. We started dating at 15. We've just passed the, dating longer than you haven't been in life. What's it been like growing with her along this journey?
It's been really difficult. It was very simple when I had no money or no fame, but it did get difficult because our life changed at a rapid rate. I think one of the main things with relationships is you change quite slowly and you can change together. It's give, it's take, it's communication, it's learning. But like business and fame, those things happen at an accelerated rate. That being said, we are definitely on the tail end of that. It's been over a year. And it was just through lots of communication. We just figured it out. This is how I feel about this. This is what we need to do going forward. So I think it was really difficult in that regard. At the end of the day, the people that were with you when you had nothing, that they're going to be with you no matter what. And this is why I often look at, people that change their friendship group out completely because they're like, oh, they don't talk about business. all my top best friends were going to New Zealand all together on a jet in November.
Sick.
Are the exact same friends from year 12. And I still have business friends. You know, I would still love to catch up with you for dinner. You don't need to trade out those people. And I think that's just a huge mistake. But yeah, it's just about, you know, trying to accelerate your rate of communication to match the change of the business.
Love that. Yeah. If you take a moment to reflect, before you said to me, you're in that period, you weren't able to reflect, you're just go, go, go. But if we take the moment right now to reflect and you think about the journey that's been, what are you most proud of?
I think I'm most proud of the way that I have bounced back from this mental health adversity. You know, I sent you a DM before doing this podcast. I was like, last podcast I had a panic attack. I hadn't had one for 2 years. I, always thought that I was just too strong to have panic attacks. Too stoic, too great at business, too rational for it. But almost losing my business multiple times, the 14-hour grueling days for 4 years, nothing compares to you sitting in your room, head just not even sure where it is and whether you're getting schizophrenia or you're just completely losing the one thing you care about the most, which is your mind. And then bouncing back and using exposure therapy, which is fucking hard, to actually fix it. I think that it pales to the challenges that I had to deal with business is more around the mental stuff. So I think that's what I'm most proud personally in terms of business wise, definitely Daily Mentor. Like Udie, we created one of Australia's biggest e-com brands. We have, I think, 6 million sold in Australia, which is quite a small country.
Solid, yeah.
But I am much more proud of the 1,000 founders that I have helped in a similar mental health state that I probably was in, find, a little bit clearer path to their dreams.
I love it, man. Is there anything we've left on the table? Anything you're thinking about at the moment?
No, I think that's good. I love it. I think you got it.
As I saw you thinking very, very deeply about that answer around what you're most proud of, I can see the truth in that. I can see the honesty. And, man, it's been an epic conversation. I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you.